Hello. Hi, 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 hi. Okay, so today I want to talk about some specific topics and late night it is indeed. Had I went swimming and I had a late afternoon or evening coach client session, so I spent some time with that, and then now I'm here to talk in stream for a little bit because wanted to record some videos about some specific topic related to what? Related to hopelessness. Because why? Hopelessness is hopelessness has been a topic that's been steadily coming up in my world. So, in the recent videos on my YouTube channel, I have been talking a lot about the importance of hope, right? And because when you don't believe in your ability, when you don't believe that innately in here there is a state where there's no suffering in your life, then it becomes really difficult for you to kind of gain the purpose or like the drive to do anything, because why? Everything's gonna be pointless anyway, right? But I told you to get the hope. I told you to be inspired by the hope inside of yourself. I told you to get inspired by the ability that you have innate within yourself. It's given to you for free. Hi. But to the hopeless mind, that is a little bit difficult to fathom. And today I want to talk a little bit about how to think differently. Ideas you can contemplate when you're in a state of hopelessness. Good night. Oh, I was making a remark to my wife. Uh, okay, so now let's actually talk about some hopelessness. Recording now. You may be finding yourself in a place in life where it's very, very difficult for you to hope, right? And this can come for many different reasons. But some specific reasons may be your life is extremely difficult and it has always consistently been very difficult. And you're kind of at your wits' end. You're very drained from fighting that fight every day, and you just don't know how you're gonna survive. And that's one way of why you might be losing hope. And the other case may be, you know, you're actively fighting. You're doing all these things to make your life better, to live your life the way you want to. And then you find yourself that consistently it's not working, right? And every time you have hope that things are gonna be better, and you try a bunch of things and you're motivated at that time, but you always keep finding yourself failing over and over again. And so when you have this, it's very difficult for you to feel any kind of hope. So when you are hopeless, right? You have to have a very big drive. You have to have a somewhat of a fairly large size of inspiration in order for you to kind of kick that state out first and get you to that place of like, you know what, let's do this, right? And so what I'm saying is when your default state is when your default perspective on life and the outlook that you have in general is that it's not really working out, it takes a lot of energy to get you to that place of let's try something, right? And the really cruel thing is just because you got yourself out of that hopeless state and you're ready to try one more time, it doesn't guarantee that things are gonna work. And that's the super fucked up part, right? Because it seems so unfair. I was so hopeless, but you know what? Billy, this July life coach guy, was like, hey, you should have hope. And I was like, you know what? Yeah, you know what? I think I deserve another chance. So let's really go through this. Let's do it one more time. And then I failed. And you remind yourself, oh, this is why I don't try things. This is why I don't do it. Because it feels absolutely horrible. I wanted to avoid precisely this possibility by not trying anything. So my hopelessness was actually a way of coping so that I don't try anymore. Because at least then, I don't have to feel hurt by the disappointment that comes from the stupid act of trying. Right? And so, that is the battle that goes on in the mind of the hopeless person over and over and over again. And that's what makes it so difficult for hopeless people to really do anything. Because when you don't want to do anything, getting to that state of needing to do something is already hard. And in that already hard space, you don't want to fail. But then because you're not guaranteed success at any point in your life, you can fail again. And you just don't want to do that. So, how do we navigate around this problem? Is the core dilemma that we're trying to solve here today, right? And the core dilemma is actually very reminiscent of something. And that something is the concept of suffering. So, Buddha said life is suffering. Why? You can refer to my other, Buddhism videos about this, but when you have a desire, right? I want a girlfriend, I want a boyfriend, or I want a close group of friends who will love me. I want good parents. I want parents who love me and support me. When you have those desires, right? It either goes one of two ways. Number one, you get it, and then you get used to it. And then you feel the lack of it again. And then you start wanting it again. I'm sure you've heard this a lot in dating forums, but suppose you're innately naturally a very lonely person, right? And suppose you get a significant other, boy/girlfriend. There's nothing that stops you from feeling lonely while you're dating someone. Yes, at first it's gonna feel good. Yes, at first it's gonna feel novel. But you're gonna get used to that feeling and how you lived your life before. Basically, the pursuit of that significant other is going to start again. And this is why a lot of relationships fail, right? Because they thought having the significant other was kind of the ultimate cure-all for everything, but it turns out it's not. Suppose, okay, so that's the one way of where I get what I want. And secondly, needless to say, when I don't get what I want, it feels bad. Because why? I want that, but I don't have it. Therefore, I'm always confronted with the lack of the thing that I want. And this really good example of this is like the entire weight loss industry and the plastic surgery kind of industry, right? So plastic surgery, oh, if only I had better eyes. And then you get the eye surgery, and then you get used to that new face. And then you're like, oh, if I had a better nose. And then you work on your nose, and then you get used to that new face. And then you do all these things, but then suppose you get to that state of like where you're like perfectly look the way you want. But now what happens to literally everybody? They get old. And so as you age, your face will naturally change, right? And so that's gonna be unbearable. So basically, every time you want something, that's the recipe for suffering, right? And so far, we talked about more like tangible single topics, boyfriend, girlfriend, like good grades, good university degree, good job, good title, lots of money in your bank account, etc., etc. But now, this also applies, right, to the notion of success and failure. And also, in the video advocating for hope, I have to tell you that the pursuit and the idea of hope becomes its own pursuit of something, right? So, really, the topic of this video is trying to help you understand that having hope is different from the expectation that your life is going to be different in a more happy way, and you're going to succeed at the things that you want to have. Because that will just have you repeating the cycle, repeating the reincarnation of desire, of suffering. And that's not the point of hope. The point of hope is, in the Buddhist way, hope that you will be conscious and awake enough to realize that everything that you thought was bad and good about life were just really convincing images from a dream. If you're a young adult, you probably remember the things that happened in your junior high or like high school. At that point, those things, the interactions that you had, felt like it would just be the biggest parts of your life. But after you graduate college, you seldom think about those times, right? Perspective changes. If you are on the, in your 30s, you remember your teenage days and early 20s where you did a lot of stupid stuff. And you went through a lot of stuff too, and you come to understand that, oh, well, values change. And a lot of people get disappointed by friends, they get backstabbed. And then what they consider friends changes, right? And how much value they place on friendships in general, that also changes, right? So just like that, the preconceived ideas that you have about, I want that because that is good. There's hope for me because my life can be different. that can change. And that can change in a way that helps you not suffer anymore. So the hope I am trying to foster in my viewers is not the hope that you will become rich. It's not the hope that you will become like successful. It's not the hope that you will be the most loved person in the world. That you're gonna fix all your family issues and all those things like that. The hope that I want to foster in you is that you can be a happy person. And by happy person, I don't mean feeling joyous and bubbly and exuberant all the time. I don't mean that. Because when you search for only that, and when that becomes the basis of what you define your happiness with, then you only have one way to go: drugs. Happy means you're not suffering. Healthy means you're not sick. I want to foster the idea of hope for you. In which I mean, I want you to believe in a life where you don't suffer. Even with your narcissistic boss. Even with your crazy parents. Even if your older siblings who are absolute bullies and dicks. Even with people at your school who bully you relentlessly. Even after a car accident, even with a genetic defect, even after you lose out in competitions. You don't have to suffer. And that is the hope I would like for you to have. Especially when you are hopeless. I want you to understand that there's a life in you that can be placed in the same situation as you. And that you will not be suffering right now. I need you to start getting in contact with that version of yourself. And that is my more complete take on hope itself and hopelessness. Yeah, that was the video I wanted to make. Why did I want to make that video? Because yeah, again, just so many different conversations I've had recently were centered around the topic of, yeah, I don't feel any hope. I want to give up. And yes, you can give up, but what will giving up accomplish? Giving up just gives you a fresh kind of a chance to start, depending on the way you look at it. This is in general, this is one of my favorite kind of lessons from Buddhism, about the importance of kind of having a flexible mind. And it's the story, it's the kind of perspective of conflicting kind of freedoms, right? Suppose I smoke cigarettes. Now, when I go outside, I want to take a smoke. I want to enjoy, really ironically, I want to enjoy smoking in the fresh outdoors. Which is weird, because if I want the fresh outdoors, why don't I just breathe? Why do I have to smoke? But anyway, I want the liberty and I want the freedom to smoke. But to a non-smoker, it sucks, right? When someone is smoking next to you. Because you don't want that secondhand smoke. So the non-smoker feels like the freedom and the right to breathe fresh air has been violated by this person who's smoking. And the smoking person feels like their right is their freedom and right to smoke and do whatever they want with their body is being violated, right? So, in this situation, or in any situation, there's always some perspective that will allow you to win in this situation, and there's always a perspective in which you lose on this situation. Our brains like to always be on the side of the losing part. But if we can focus on the losing part, we can also focus on the good part. We understand the brain naturally wants to gravitate towards the negative, but we can feel the positives in it. And that is kind of the brain default state that we want to cultivate if we want to live a happy life. Because why? Like, what benefit does it give you when you focus on the negatives? It just makes your life miserable, and in turn, it makes other people's lives miserable. And, I don't think the world has to be that kind of a place. Yeah, like, certain tasks, life can feel big at some times, but at the end of the day, we are most likely not gonna last the next 100 years. Like, if you're born today, it's very likely that you're gonna die in the next 100 years, whether you consider life to be easy or difficult. And this can be interpreted as a very depressing thing, right? But it doesn't have to be like that. This means we can let go of the pressure to try and really make something out of, big meanings and big accomplishments. Because no accomplishment is really that big that will transcend the really lasting effect of time, because everything's gonna change, and that's a very liberating thing, right? So focusing on the greater goods, even when it's difficult for you, and not doing things that give you a lot of pressure because it means that you have to amount to a successful life or something. Those are all kind of liberties that you can enjoy when you subscribe to kind of a freer interpretation of life. And I want my viewers to have an uncomplicated view of life. Oh, man, super tired. I swam a lot more than usual today. Usually, I go a few laps and then rest, and few laps and then rest, and few laps and rest. But today I was just like, you know what? I'm gonna swim on and on and on. So, swam a lot. So I'm feeling pretty tired. You like to do some analysis on your past in very detail, which is like a therapy to yourself, but it takes courage. Okay, so help me understand. Why does it take courage? Because you are afraid of seeing what's underneath your past? Or you feel like you might fail? There's lots of different reasons why you can feel like it takes courage. It's a big undertaking, but I'm interested in particular why it's feeling like it's gonna take courage for you. because it's different for everybody. Oh man. Because I can't stop till you're next to me. Though I can't live without you anymore. Like every bad and good things, and I have to sit and face it. The truth that I'm in this level. Yeah, you know, I'm gonna be like honest with you. Sitting down and facing it is the most difficult part. I completely agree. But at the same time, if you think about it, as long as you don't do that, nothing's gonna change, right? Hmm. Yeah. But seen in a good way, like if you want to change things around in your brain, all you have to do is sit down and face it. Yeah, so what is emotion controlling? Let's talk a little bit about that. Emotion control. So, when you look at all the crimes that happen, like murders or assault and battery, it never happens when when people are in a good mood, right? It never happens when you are stable and kind of conscious of yourself. These violent events and heightened emotions always happen when you are consumed by a really strong emotion, right? So what's the difference between like not activated and activated? Hey, Isaac, thank you so much for the love. So going back to the topic at hand, like what's the difference between like this state where I'm consumed by my anger versus I take a chill pill and then I'm not angry. What's the difference? Of course, the difference is like I'm angry versus not, right? But like trying to actually answer that question. And the answer to that is that when you're consumed in an emotion, you lose your sense of multi presence. And multi presence is the most important thing in your brain. Multi presence means I'm talking to you on YouTube, right? And so in my head, I'm thinking about Isaac. I'm thinking of Rio. I'm thinking of Denise. I'm thinking of all the viewers who are gonna see this video. At the same time, I'm looking at my webcam here. At the same time, I'm looking at my computer screen. Also, my wife is doing Duolingo in the living room, so I'm hearing that. And my dog is sleeping next to me, and she's snoring right now. And like the things that I'm wearing, the texture of my chair, I'm feeling all of it simultaneously, and I'm aware that I am using my hands in this way. I'm aware that I'm waiting for a phone call from my dad. I'm aware of how much time I'm spending on talking about this topic. So these are all things that are going happening all at once, right? And my awareness around these things is what makes the human brain the most powerful thing. But when you're consumed and when you're in it, you lose all that functionality. When you're so upset, you forget that there are other people around you. You forget what you're wearing. You forget all those things, not because you're stupid, but that's the nature of when you are consumed by an emotion, when you're consumed by something. Hi, Carolina. Nice to meet you. Haven't seen you in a while. Welcome to the stream. Yeah. So, how to actually recover when you are really like activated and super upset is to recognize, oh, I'm super angry right now. And just zooming back and recognizing that you are upset, recognizing that you are triggered, recognizing that you are activated. And by doing that, you take away a lot of the power that's being used to hold on to that strong emotion, right? Because holding on to that strong emotion takes a lot of like mental energy too. But when you zoom out, some of this power gets like transferred out, and then that's why emotion regulating techniques like tapping, EFT, and the bilateral stimulation, or like the squeeze method that my dad uses, these things help in regulating your emotion. Because why? It basically divests your brain, and it makes your brain focus on a lot of other things happening at once, right? You kind of overload your brain, and then you become deactivated. So that's how you do emotion control. Now, the downside of this is that emotion controls have to happen after you are activated, right? And so the problem is you're always one step behind. And I don't know if you're like me, but I don't like it when I have to react to things. I don't like it when I have to be one step behind. So that's why I engage in a lot of meditation. That's why I engage in bowing, right? Because those practices and the contemplation of Buddhism and then studying and researching of Buddhism and constantly applying that wisdom to my life, it lets me know I have no reason to be upset. It lets me know I have no reason to suffer. And in this way, I don't get activated in the first place. So therefore, there's no need for emotion regulation, because I'm always regulated. To the point where there's no distinguishing between the regulated state and dysregulated state. And I think that is overall just a happier way to live. Because why? You have no reason to suffer. And so that's why in so many of the coaching sessions I ask, why? What's the problem? Why do you feel this way? Because I'm trying to look for the reason why you feel bad. Because if we remove that reason, we don't feel bad anymore, right? But we can rely on removing the reason physically. But what if that reason comes back, you know? So for example, oh, I'm getting bullied at school and I don't want to be bullied and that's why I'm suffering, right? Okay, so we suspend the bully. Alright, yay, for a few days school feels good. But then the bully comes back, right? Now I feel bad again. Even when the bully doesn't actively bully me anymore, I still feel bad. Because why? The bully's been torturing me for like years. So even if they don't do it, there's always a possibility that they can, right? And the mind doesn't want to entertain that. So removing the bully and activating your nervous system after you become scared of the bully, I think they work, right? I'm not saying it's useless. It works. But I'm saying it doesn't solve the actual problem. The actual problem is that I consider this to be a threat to me. And as long as that is there, as long as that framework is there, I'm always going to suffer. So, what I really have to recognize and understand is, oh, bullies are human. I'm a human. Bully can say things, but it doesn't have to get to me. Bully can beat me up, but number one, I can also beat them up. Number two, yeah, they can beat me, but they're gonna pay the consequence for it. So it's really nothing that has to do with me. Oh, the bully is powerless over me right now. Then you have no reason to suffer, right? For me, emotion like anger, sadness is like cola. It'll burst out in a bad way if I always close the bottle, but sometimes you can open it and let it flow. Yeah. So, yeah, the how you let that steam out, how you let that cola out, is by really sitting down and thinking, and really kind of having a conversation with that part of you. So I was bullied in school, right? This was around 8th grade, and so I'll just show you an example of how I really like sit down and talk about this. Talk with my emotion, right? So, uh, I was just minding my own business, and during lunch, and then uh, this girl came up to me and started like cussing me out in Korean, right? And out of nowhere, right? And it wasn't just this like, oh, like you're stupid and like you're dumb, blah blah blah. It's less about like those things, but she said some really intricate and extremely defacing kinds of cuss words, right? And so I was just kind of dumbfounded. And now I thought this would be like a one-time isolated thing, but this just consistently went on for like a month. So for weeks, I would just try to eat lunch in peace, and then like clockwork, this girl would come and just cuss me out in a very creative and scathing way. So I got really upset, right? I got extremely angry. So when I really sit down with this anger, and I'm gonna like reconnect to that state, right? Where this is actively happening. And now I don't wanna go to school. I don't wanna go to school because when I go to school it's gonna be lunchtime. And when it's lunchtime, I'm gonna be cussed out by this person I don't even know. Like it's really weird. Is she never even said anything to me before this. Like we had no prior contact, and it feels so powerless because I'm the only one who understands what she's saying. I have no idea why she's doing this. And so I could tell my friends, but they don't get it. Because why? Like, because they don't know the words. She's speaking to me in Korean. And also, there's this like a whole dynamic about I'm a guy being activated by a girl, right? And I'm an 8th grader guy, so like those things tend to be important at that age. And so nobody really understands me. I don't want to be in that kind of place where nobody understands me. And this is especially difficult for me because I came from Korea not long ago. So I've now, because of this, I feel really ostracized. I feel like a foreigner because, before this I didn't really feel like a foreigner because I already spoke English like pretty well. And so I was assimilating with the kids, and then this happens, and then now I have the sudden recognition that I'm a foreigner now, that I'm an outsider. I feel out of place now, and I don't feel like I belong here. And I'm really lonely because nobody really understands what I'm going through, which totally sounds like something an eighth grader would say. And this loneliness and this sort of this on topic too, it feels hopeless. And I feel like I'm near the end of my wits. Like I don't know how long I can last. And that is what I'm feeling. And so this is how you really, really sit down with an emotion and just like completely feel it, right? Okay. So just by recognizing that I am feeling these things already puts you out of that emotion, right? Because now you're able to talk about that feeling in a rational way. And then we can ask ourselves, right? Like we don't have to just stop at explain how you feel. It We can now connect it back to desire and personal agency, not desire from like, oh, I want blah blah blah, but more like, okay, I understand. I'm feeling really lonely, and I'm feeling really kind of desolate and desperate. So what do I want to do here? Because right now, I feel like I have no other options. How did I get up since? Well, I beat her up. Not proud of it, but I got into a fight, and some other stuff happened. It's like turns out she was kind of a proxy for Korean American girls. So basically, she was getting bullied by a group of Korean American girls, and they basically told her to say those words to me. That's how she got to know these words, and so yeah, it was a very fucked up moment. And that was the primary reason why I didn't hang out with a lot of like Korean Americans growing up. But it's just a part of like how I grew up. But now, like going back to the original like intent of the story, right? I feel like I have no power, but that's precisely where I'm wrong, right? I can do something about this, but I didn't know it at the time, and I just got pushed to my limits, and then I let my unconscious kind of explode, right? So, like your cola description, I exploded like a bottle of Pepsi. And that's not really the best thing that I did in my life, right? So, if I were to talk to myself then, I would talk about But you are not powerless here. You can do things. I understand that like you want them to stop. You want them to stop. But what if they don't? Right? What are you going to do then? Because right now you're feeling powerless and you're just taking it. And there are reasons for that, right? Because I feel like an outsider, because I'm just one who understands, and there's that implicit power difference. But I need you to understand that that power difference is a construct. You're not actually powerless. So if you had your way, right? And if this was purely English, and like everyone understood that this person is coming to you, and they were like just randomly cussing you out, or suppose they were doing it to your friend in English, what would you do then, right? I have to connect to my power. I have to connect to the part of myself that can actually make decisions like this. And that is how I start finding the agency within myself. Yes, maybe I can do this, maybe I can do that. And then focusing on the things that I can do instead of focusing on just feeling bad and feeling powerless over that feeling. That's how you get up. That's how you manage these things, right? Gotta understand that at every moment in your life, regardless of how you feel about it, you always can do something about it. You can always do something about it. And no one can take away your personal power that you have over your life. Oh, all right. Well, I am feeling very beat and I want to upload the video before I go to bed tonight. So now I'm going to close the stream and upload the video. All right, my friends. Thank you so much for joining today. Hey, Friday night for me here. Enjoy your weekend. Maybe I'll see you in one of the weekends on stream, but in case I don't, have a great weekend and I will see you next time. Bye bye.